started. All right, once again, everyone, thank you so much for those who are joining us live on this Saturday morning new development spotlight here in Belize. This is a property that I'm really excited about. It's something a little different, something a little bit different than what we're seeing in the market on Ambergris Caye and Caye Caulker, and then the surrounding islands. And this is a small boutique development located in Caye Caulker. Caye Caulker is the sister island to Ambergris Caye. It's what people are referring to as Ambergris Caye 20, 25 years ago, where they still have sandy streets, not many golf carts. People primarily get around by bicycle. Some people have golf carts, but it's really by bicycle and walking because it is a small town and generally size-wise and then also population-wise. So we're going to talk about this quiet retreat in the heart of it all on Caye Caulker, Belize. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about Caye Caulker. So Caye Caulker, it's a small island. It's only about 5 miles long, and it's less than 1 mile wide at its widest point. Now, on Caye Caulker, there is a very defining characteristic of this island, which is called the split. And you can see it right here on the left-hand side. There is the split where the island was literally split in half. And now it's a very popular place to go and enjoy the lazy lizard juice that's there. I think it's called the lizard juice. It's a green drink. I have a picture of it actually in one of the next slides, but that's like the iconic drink here on Caye Caulker. So there's the south side of the island, the south side of Caye Caulker, and then the north side of Caye Caulker. The south side is really where the town started. So this is where you have that downtown area. I put downtown because that makes you think of like a big city. It's really not a big city, right? It's a small town. But this is where you have those sandy streets, the colorful buildings, the souvenir shops. Belize Chocolate Company, for example, is located here in this downtown area. And then within this downtown area, I mean, there's restaurants, there's bars, there's everything that you really need. And then there's the split. And the only way to get across the split is by either a boat, if you're taking a private boat up to the north side of the island, or they do have something called the split to split. And it's actually a little ferry. I should have put a picture in here, but it's pretty funny. It's a little ferry, and they can accommodate about a golf cart or two, and they'll take people across the split. And it's really not, that far of a distance, maybe about 30, 40 feet. But of course it's water, right? So you can't go driving over it. So it's pretty neat to see that little boat shuttle that goes back and forth. Now, what I have found, so I've been here in Belize for 13 years. We go back and forth to Caye Caulker quite a bit. I'm based on Ambergris Caye, but it's a short 30 minutes away from Ambergris Caye. It's a fantastic destination. It's something so different. It's much quieter than Ambergris Caye. It still has those quirks and the charms that maybe San Pedro's been losing a little bit since we've been developing so quickly. But I just think of Caye Caulker as, like we said, what Ambergris Caye was 20, 25 years ago. So let's just take a little bit more of a look at Caye Caulker. Here's the island of Caye Caulker zoomed in over here on the right-hand side, but only 30 minutes away from Ambergris Caye, 5 minutes away from Caye Chapel. Caye Chapel is where there is a golf course that's going to be built. It's actually the site of the Four Seasons development. So the Four Seasons Resort development, villas, private homes, and then also they're going to be redoing the golf course. This is one of the only golf courses here in Belize. There's one other golf course on the mainland, close to Belmopan, which is the capital in the Cayo district. But this is going to be the only other golf course, active golf course here in the country. So we're really excited about that. And then it's very, very easy to get to Belize City as well. There's a ferry that goes back and forth. It's about 45 minutes to go back and forth between Caye Caulker and Belize City. There are two different water ferry companies. There's Caribbean Sprinter and San Pedro Express, and it'll take you about 45 minutes to go back and forth. There is also the plane. If you want to take the small puddle jumpers, you can do Maya Air or Tropic Air, and that's going to be about 10 minutes to be able to go back and forth between the two. But again, if you have been to Ambergris Caye before and you have not yet been to Caye Caulker, think of it as the smaller version of Ambergris Caye. And you can just see size-wise, right? Ambergris Caye is up here to the north. And then right over here, this little island over here, this is indeed Caye Caulker. So very similar to Ambergris Caye, there's the reef that is just a stone throw away from Caye Caulker. So this is a big destination for diving and snorkeling and fishing and all of those activities we tend to see on Ambergris Caye as well. And as you can see, population-wise, it's only about 2,500 people who live here full-time. So this is, again, small town here, whereas Ambergris Caye is about 30 to 35,000. So big difference numbers wise, but if you're just looking for something a little bit quieter, maybe you want easier and quicker access to Belize City, you can easily be at Ambergris Caye in 30 minutes. Caye Caulker is a great solution. We have had a handful of clients decide that Caye Caulker is right for them, and because it is that small town feel. And you'll see when you get to Caye Caulker, there's a big sign that says "Go slow." That is the motto for Caye Caulker. So go slow. You don't have to be in a rush. There's no need to be zipping along everywhere. When you're here, you're intended to just relax and kick back a bit. So let's talk a little bit more about the island. I was talking to you about the sandy streets. See, they still have the sandy streets throughout the island over here, but it is a popular place, as we were saying before, for the snorkeling and fishing and diving because the reef does parallel Caye Caulker. In addition to that, one of the I think most fun things to do is go and visit the different shops here along the downtown area, the main area, because you do have a variety. Like we're saying, Belize chocolate. There's a handful of gift shops, souvenir shops, and beach barbecue is probably one of my favorite activities, one of my favorite things to do, my favorite foods to get when I'm there in Caye Caulker, just right along the beach there, people who are cooking, and especially during lobster season, you can get a fresh lobster for just 20, 25 US at most, right? And it's just being cooked right there in front of you, and it is so incredibly fresh. On Caye Caulker, there's also an Italian restaurant that is owned by an Italian couple. And a lot of times people from San Pedro will go over to Caye Caulker, spend the night out there, go to dinner at the Italian restaurant, and then come back the next morning and just have an experience, right? Because we don't necessarily have that sort of Italian on Ambergris Caye. One of the big activities also is feeding the tarpon. So tarpon are one of the 3 catch and release fish here in Belize. So there's the permit, tarpon, and bonefish. And the tarpon actually live, I mean, they live all around the island, right? But there's a big area where they tend to congregate. It's actually goes down, there's a cave underneath this area that people go and feed the tarpon in, and it's really fun. And tarpon, like, they're huge. They're like 3-4 feet. And so you take the little sardines and you got to make sure you hold on to it like by the tail, right? Like this. You know, here's the pen, right? Hold on to it like this so that when the tarpon comes, their mouths are huge. And then they'll just grab the sardine from you. And it's a pretty fun activity to do. In addition to that, there is a hotel called Iguana Reef. And at Iguana Reef around 4:30, they will do stingray feeding. And this picture on the left-hand side is actually from the stingray feeding there. But you get all the stingrays congregating up. And at this same hotel, they also have a little seahorse reserve. It's actually very difficult to see seahorses. I don't know if anybody's seen them while diving or snorkeling, but they're little itty bitty things. And they do have that little reserve, their little farm over there over at Iguana Reef. And then I was telling you about that iconic lizard juice. So that is this green drink over here. What's in it? I think it's just a mix of alcohols, but it's a fun place to go to at the Split and enjoy that. I'm going to go back over here to the map where we were just talking about the Split. So the Split is, again, right over here. And then that is what separates the north side of the island and then also the south side of the island. So because the south side and this downtown area is really where has developed first for Caye Caulker, there wasn't much development that was happening on the north side. In fact, it was very quiet. In order to get there, like we said, you needed to access a boat or have access to a boat. So a lot of the development over the years, you know, from folks who've lived there have been around this area. This is also where the airstrip is. So I mentioned to you Maya Air or Tropic Air, they'll land right here on the south side. In addition to that, there's the water taxi that's going to be coming in right over here on the south side of the Split. So this is really where the hub of activities are. And so with that being said, Ruby Villas is a property that I'm very excited about because it's one of, and really and truly the only new development, condo development that is happening south of the Split. You will see that there are new developments that are happening on the north side of the Split. Blue Zen, for example, that one has been in development for about 8, 9, 10 years. And then there are a couple of others that are happening up here, but there's just nothing where if anybody wants quick access to be able to get to town in 5 minutes, to be able to get to the airstrip in a couple of minutes, get to the water taxi, there's nothing, no new condo construction happening south of the Split. And a lot of that reason is actually just because of land. There's not much land available. And so if you as a developer are coming in and you need more land, you're going to be going to the north side, which is where you have those larger tracts, as you can pretty much tell here from the map. So, and then once you go south of the airstrip, then it's off grid. So they don't have any public electricity there at this point. I do understand they are working on it or talking about it. But at this point, south of the airstrip, there's no electricity. So to be in an area where you do have electricity, it would be limited, right? Especially if you want to be south of the Split, it's limited to this area. So again, higher number of homes over here, less undeveloped or vacant land to be developing on. So that's why people tend to go north. So with that being said, Caye Caulker has, and I think will continue and continuously and always be a destination for people who are coming to Belize. We tend to get younger travelers coming to the island. We tend to get a lot of backpackers. We tend to get people who are coming from the mainland as well, who maybe don't necessarily want to be continuing the boat destination and journey and going all the way to Ambergris. Caye Caulker is that good in-between spot. So in 2023, we saw that Caye Caulker had a total number of visitors of about 50, we'll round up a little bit, about 53,000. These numbers are directly from the BTB. The BTB is the Belize Tourism Board. When you're coming into the country, you'll have to fill out your electronic form, and they'll ask you where it is that you're going, where you're staying, and then they take all of that information and then put it here into the numbers that are being presented to you. So anybody is able to access the stats. You can go to the Belize Tourism Board website, go to the stats tab, and then they have about 8 or 9 different things that they are recording and then publishing. So this is the estimated number of visitors in 2023 to Caye Caulker. So we see about 53,000 over here. And I do want to highlight there are only a couple of other places where there are more visitors. So San Pedro, I mean, that's known, that's the #1 tourism destination for the entire country. In addition to that, the Cayo district at 66,000. I know a lot of people who are thinking about coastal properties tend to look at Placencia, but you can see that Placencia actually had a smaller number of visitors compared to Caye Caulker. So if you're someone who wants to be where tourists are going or visitors are going, and you want to see that there's that growth that's happening, this is a great place to be. So you can see that there was an 18% growth in tourism on Caye Caulker between 2023 and 2024. Do note though that they didn't have, when I pulled this yesterday, they did not have the December numbers yet for 2024, even though we are in April 12th, 2025. They did not have these stats yet. So we're pulling these numbers without including one of the most busiest months of the year. So that's an 18% growth, not including December 2024. But again, let's look at Placencia. So Placencia had 47,000 visitors, whereas in 2024, they've actually had a decline in about 44,000 visitors. One of the big reasons for that is, well, at least we see with places like Caye Caulker, there are things to do. There are activities. There's things like easy access to the reef. You can get the reef in 10, 15 minutes. You can go do the stingray feeding, right? It's just, you can walk around town a lot easier. So a lot of reasons why people are choosing places like Caye Caulker or San Pedro over Placencia. However, seeing here the numbers, seeing the growth in tourism is a great indicator of the popularity and what we can continue to see. So if you're somebody who's planning to live on the island, then these numbers may not necessarily mean so much to you. But if you're somebody who wants to maybe take advantage of the rental program, I think Ruby Villas would be a great spot for somebody from a long-term rental perspective, even a nightly, if you want to put your property in a nightly rental program. But I'd say it's a fantastic place to live and also to offer long-term rentals, because that is something that is currently struggling with inventory for long-term rentals for expats or foreigners who are coming to the country. There's just not much inventory. Caye Caulker, it's primarily a town that a lot of locals live in. And so locals are obviously occupying their homes as they have kids. Their kids are building homes or have homes on the island, and there's just not much space. So there's not much extra inventory for long-term rentals. But anyway, with that being said, neat to see the growth in tourism that we're seeing on Caye Caulker. So let's talk a little bit more about the location. So I mentioned to you it's south of the split, and where you see this red pin over here, this is where Ruby Villas is located. So you can be at the Caribbean in just a couple of minutes. You can be on the bay side of the island in just a couple of minutes. It's literally like 2 blocks from the Caribbean. And you can see Caye Caulker is a small area, right? The downtown area, it's only a few blocks over here. So you have really incredible views. Once you go to the rooftop of Ruby Villas, you have Caribbean views, you have sunrise views. Then you go to the other side of the rooftop, and then you have really incredible sunset views and bay views as well. But you're just 1 minute, and you can see here just from walking distance, you're about 1 minute to the Caribbean, a couple of minutes to the bay. You're about 3 minutes to the airstrip right over here, 4 minutes to the local grocery stores, 5 minutes to the heart of downtown Caye Caulker, and then 6 minutes to the water taxi. So I guess it depends on your walk too, right? If you want to be a little bit more leisurely, of course you can, but it's just a very, very convenient location with everything around that you really need in order to have amenities around you. So Ruby Villas consists of only 7 condos. So on the first floor, there's 3 1-bedrooms. On the second floor, it's 2 2-bedrooms. On the third floor, it's 2 2-bedrooms. And then there's a rooftop space upstairs. So the developers, we just had a call with them prior to prior to this webinar here, they're about 60 days away from this property being completely done. They're just starting now with the under construction sales. I can't say pre-construction because it is actively under construction, and they're about 60 days away from the entire building being completed. We did an open house there a couple of weeks ago for people to get familiar and acquainted with the property. And we've gotten some really, really good feedback. Actually, condo number 2 is already sold. And I know that number 3 had a pending offer, a verbal offer rather. So we don't know if that's going to convert to a written offer, but at least this time it's in verbal. But again, 7 condos in total, 3 1-bedrooms, 2 2-bedrooms on the second floor, and then 2 2-bedrooms on the third floor as well. Very expansive verandas. I do have the square footage and the breakdown of interior and exterior space if anybody wants it, but they are also coming furnished. So I wouldn't necessarily say fully furnished because there's space for you to be able to customize it. You know, you bring in your linens, you bring in your towels, bring in the artwork that you want to really make it your own. So there's enough at the property where you're able to come, and if you want to be here for a month at a time, you can certainly do that. With the bed is here, the dresser, the appliances, stainless steel appliances, inverter AC units. It's a very, very much so a high quality build. This property, it's a cinder block and concrete build, which is the most durable method of construction. It's a time proven method of construction on the islands over here. And it's just very, very high quality build. So it's neat to see that. We've been watching the progress over the last months of it being under construction. And it's neat to see how it's really taking shape, and it looks very, very similar to the renderings that we see here. But again, coming furnished, and then a handful of amenities too that this property is offering. So there is a community pool, and then also at the community pool, there is a bathroom. And I mention this because sometimes developers don't necessarily think about these things for the comfort of their guests, right? They might just build a pool, but they may not necessarily put the bathroom. But there is the community bathroom, and then also the rooftop veranda. It extends along the same square footage of the units below, but it's also shaded. So they did put a rooftop covering there, so you'll have shade, and they also put a bathroom there. So if you want to be able to relax on the rooftop, you know, open up a lounge chair or something, or simply just watch the sunrise or the sunset, you can do that very, very comfortably. And then, of course, parking. Parking is important, especially if you do plan to have a golf cart. You don't really need one in this location. It is very walkable to get places. Bikes are a very common method of getting around the island because it is so small. That's really actually what you'll see most people on, but there's always parking there should you decide that you want to do that. So we mentioned to you that there's 3, let me go back here. There's 3 bedrooms. I put number 3 says sold, but again, it's just an open offer right now, or a verbal offer. So it's not quite sold yet. But there's also unit number 1 over here, and then the next 2 bedrooms and the next 2 bedrooms. 1 bedroom, 1 bath. So the first one is 774 square feet. That's this one over here. And then number 3 is 827 square feet. That's this one over here. So it is a little bit larger, but it is being offered at the same $299. So these 2 units are both being offered at $299. And then the developer is offering financing. So 50% down, 8% interest, 4-year term. So when you're starting to break down the numbers, it comes out to a little under $200,000. And then your monthly payments will be about $36.50 per month US. So this developer wasn't initially going to offer financing, but he is willing to do it for the first few units here. So if this is something that you're interested in and you can make the numbers work, I think it's a great opportunity. Again, you can see it's high quality construction, stainless steel, custom mahogany cabinetry, some custom furniture as well. But what you can see here is how it's going to be delivered to you. So you have the appliances. You have the table here. I know there was one client who wanted an island, so that's something that can be discussed as well. But it's a beautiful property. And then coming to the 2 bedrooms. So the 2 bedrooms vary in square footage. So they start at 1,338 square feet, and then it goes up to 1,501 square feet. So you can see there's a little over 150 square foot difference between the units. Let me go back just to show unit 4 and unit 5, unit 6 and unit 7. So smaller unit on the left-hand side overlooking the pool, and then the larger unit overlooking the backside. So here we are. So just with the financing example, we're going to do the average here of $479,000. It's 50% down, 8% interest, 4-year term. So just doing quick numbers, you're going to be putting down about $240,000, and then your monthly payment is going to be about $5,900. So just something to bear in mind if you're just trying to find ways to make it work, or if you perhaps want to grab one of these sooner rather than later. You can always start with the financing. There's no prepayment penalties, so you're certainly able to pay that off if you are able to do so sooner rather than later, and then save yourself some extra interest. But it's a great option to have, just being there. So let's do a quick recap of Ruby Villas. It's brand new, high quality construction. They're opening in the next couple of months, so we're really excited about that. And however, though, if you are planning to come to Caye Caulker and you want to see the property, we can of course do a walkthrough so you can see what it's looking like. The first two floors are the first floor is more or less done. The second floor is close to being done. And then the third floor is the one that they'll be working on over the next couple of months here to get finished. But you can always walk up the stairs and see the property, and then of course get to the rooftop and be able to really see those views. So again, what else makes Ruby Villas unique is the fact that there is developer financing. Not all developers, not all sellers are willing to offer this, especially if you're a foreigner here in Belize. That traditional bank financing for foreigners is not available. So you have to find a seller who is willing to be flexible and offer some sort of terms in order for it to work. And then, like we talked about, it's a prime location, quick access to everything. You can be at the water in a couple of minutes. You can be at town in a couple of minutes. You can be hopping on a plane to go to the mainland or to go back to, visit family in your home country very, very quickly and easily. So some really big advantages here to Ruby Villas. So we invite you to call Ruby Villas home. We do have an informational FAQ guide that runs through about 30 questions, commonly asked questions that we're happy to get over to you. Just email me for that, info@lunarealtybelize.com, info@lunarealtybelize.com. We want to get those details over to you so that you're able to dig deeper into them. For this session here, I could probably talk for another half an hour, but I know it's a Saturday morning and we want to be respectful of everybody's time. But like I've mentioned, this is a property I'm very excited about, and one just to see its construction is beautiful. It's looking really, really remarkable. And again, that high quality finishes and construction methodology. So with that, do reach out to us. We'd love to get these details over to you. And I thank everyone who joined us live and for everybody who's tuning into the recording afterwards. All right, everyone, have a fantastic weekend and we'll be in touch. Bye-bye.